Welcome and welcome back. Today we are exploring the use of a fun prop, a dowel. And I'm making a few videos using the dowel. So check out the other ones if you find this one interesting. My dowel is the handle of it was a broom or a mop, I'm not sure what, the bottom unscrewed. Um, I'm not sure how it would be if the end of the mop was still on it. It'd be kind of weird, but you can also get these at, you can get a dowel at like a hardware store. But it's a nice, sturdy, it doesn't bend, um, and it's nice to have a little bit of length. I will say I tried some more flexible, shorter ones, and they didn't really work very well. So we have our nice dowel, and we've done a little bit with, I did another video with hip hinging. We'll have a video around shoulders, and this one we're going to work a little bit with twists and using the dowel for twists. And really, props are for support and also for our awareness. So we're using the dowel here to gain more awareness in our twists and help us really refine our twists. So we're going to start with a downward facing dog, actually. So we're going to keep using downward facing dog through this series of videos to sort of gauge the effects of our practice on our practice. And even though you might think, well, downward facing dog, it has nothing to do with twists. It's interesting how, well, twists involve our shoulders and our hips, which are very much involved in downward facing dog. We're going to use a side bend as well. Again, not related to a twist, but actually kind of is, because shoulders and hips, or rib cage and hips, right, are both involved. So let's start with just a check-in. Set the dowel down, and you can come into your downward facing dog however you like. I'm going to come in through forward fold because I'm standing up. I'm going to place my hands and step my feet back and lift my hips up to the sky and find my downward facing dog. Feeling the hands, feeling the feet, feeling your breath. So really important as we go through the practice here that we stay connected to the breath, because it can be really easy as you experiment and explore and try something new to hold your breath. Or even, I find sometimes, just because you're trying to pay attention, I want to hold my breath. So keep that breath nice and easy and flowy. So coming to stand, and let's try our little side bend. So feeling the 3 points of your feet, center of the heel, ball of the foot, big toe side, baby toe side. We'll take a little side bend to one side. If you want to add the arm, feel free. Come on back. We'll take a little side bend to the other side. I'm going to go to the arm. And again, just kind of checking in here. How does it feel? Can you feel your feet? What does this feel like? What does your breath feel like? All right. Now we're going to pick up our implement, our dowel or our rod. And although we haven't worked with our shoulders, we are actually going to take the rod behind us, and I'm going to hold it nice and wide. So you can bring it more narrow. In fact, I might end up bending my elbows just because it feels a little more sturdy, but we can start with it nice and wide. I have it fairly low. If it's able to come up around the bottom of your rib cage, that is ideal. So that's where my elbows are bending a little bit now, so I can have that up. Just at the bottom, my rib cage just ends here, and here's my top of my pelvis. So I just want to have it across those bottom ribs. So I'm going to be able to feel those ribs when we come into a twist. So when we twist, the real engine of the twist are the muscles between the rib cage and the pelvis, the oblique muscles, and they run on diagonals. They run diagonally this way and diagonally this way, and they contract to draw the rib cage towards the pelvis, or in some cases, the pelvis towards the rib cage. Now, in fact, all of the twists we'll be doing today will be pelvis staying steady and the rib cage moving, and that just happens to be what I've got going on today. But certainly there's lots of other instances where we keep the upper body still and we rotate the pelvis like this. That would be one case, I guess. Okay, yeah, we're going to start with a twist from Warrior one. Well, warrior one, high lunge. So I'm going to take this dowel behind my back and again position it so it's against my low ribs. And I'm going to have my elbows bent because it just feels more comfortable. So from here, feeling all the weight, pick a foot to stand on. I'm going to pick my left foot. My weight's going to come in my left foot. I'm going to take a step back with my right. Whoops, I'm going to adjust a little bit. So I actually have my right heel against the wall. So one, it's going to give me a little bit more stability, and two, it's just happens to be where the camera is, where the camera is located. But you might choose to do the same. You could also bring that back foot fully on the floor into a warrior one stance and feeling all 3 points on the back foot as well as the front foot. I'm coming into high lunge. I just find it easier to keep my hips square, but hey, your mileage may vary. Okay, so from here, we're going to find our twist towards the front leg. And we're going to think about moving between the rib cage and the hip. Okay, so you can see I moved my pelvis there, right? So thinking about the muscles between the top of the left pelvis and the bottom of the right rib cage. Top of the front leg, bottom of the rib cage, and letting the twist happen from there. And you're going to feel, if you try to use the arms, then the dowel is going to move. If you try to use the pelvis, well, I guess the dowel's going to stay where it is, but we want to keep the pelvis nice and steady and just move the rib cage. And it might be really small. You can see that if I move much bigger, my pelvis starts to move. So it's okay to move nice and small. We could even do a side bend here if we wanted to. And again, feeling if you want to move from the arms and shoulders, or if we can bring that rib cage closer to the leg. Okay, let's step back up and take a moment, take a break. Notice anything that you notice. And then let's switch to the other foot. So other leg steps back. Again, I'm using the wall for a little bit of stability as well as to position myself for the camera. And I feel the rod against my back, so I know if I'm moving my arms around instead of my rib cage. I'm going to try and really feel the feet nice and grounded so my legs are stable and strong. And I'm rotating my rib cage towards the pelvis. And yeah, it's tiny, eh? Because if I go much bigger, weird things start to happen. I start to shift the dowel around, my pelvis starts to go. So play around. And then if you'd like, you can take a little bit of a side bend this way as well. And again, just noticing what's trying to move, what's going on with the dowel. Okay, we're going to step back. Take a pause. All right, and then let us play with another. So here we're going to come into our wide-legged forward fold with the dowel. I'm actually going to use a block as well to put my bottom hand on. So when we come into our wide-legged forward fold, and hopefully you're going to be able to see this well enough, I might stand sideways actually. What often happens when we come into a twist here, there's two things that happen. One is that the one hip goes up and the other hip goes down. Show it to you sideways. There's kind of a movement of the pelvis to the side, or even a movement of the leg bones to the side. Yeah, you can maybe see that here as well. You can see my leg bones are moving and my pelvis is shifting. So that can be one thing that happens. And then of course there's also rounding. Oh yeah, this one, where it becomes more of a side bend, or maybe a side bend and a twist. And not that there's anything wrong with that, right? Like it's great to be able to side bend and twist. But if you think that you're just twisting, but you're actually doing this, You're not actually twisting that much. So it's also helping your brain kind of recognize, what is my body actually doing? So we're going to use the dowel again for some feedback. So as we come into our forward fold, I'm going to keep this dowel just beside my neck. And I'm going to bring so I've got my dowel in my right hand and my left fingertips are on the block. And I'm feeling the center of the heel and the ball of the foot on the big toe side and the baby toe side in both feet. I'm trying to feel like both feet are equally anchored to the ground. I can feel the feet pressing into the ground and that pressure coming back up into the pelvis and going back down into the ground. So I feel really solid through the legs. And then I'm going to, again, think about the rib cage rotating on towards the other hip. My spine rotating on its axis, just like the dowel would, yeah? So as my spine rotates, I can feel if I'm going sideways or not. Now, what I like to do with my other hand, if I can, is bring it onto my pelvis just to notice if I'm going sideways or shifting with the pelvis. And this is another area where the wall can be really helpful. As you come into your forward fold, you have to sort of position yourself so you're in the right spot. If you're too close to the wall, when you come into your forward fold, you'll fall over. So you have to sort of find the spot where your bum can touch the wall, but your weight's still even in both feet. You're not leaning against the wall, yeah? And then from here, I can feel my sit bones on the wall. And as I rotate, I can feel if one slides or the other slides. And so I get feedback from both the wall and the dowel. And then we'll come up for a moment, take a pause. And we'll come back down. And you notice I'm not coming all the way down. Yeah, I'm coming just halfway. So I can really focus on the twist. Already I've got like a lot of hinge happening in the hips. You might even come up nice and high like this for the twist. You don't have to be far over. I'm coming over a little bit because I thought it might be easier to see. So as we come forward, and then again, I'm going to think about my rib cage rotating around the axis of my spine, and the dowel is there to tell me if I start leaning to the side. And the wall is there to tell me if my pelvis is shifting either way. And then we'll come back and come back out. Yes. And step back together. Just notice how that feels. All right. I've got one more to show you, and then we will come back to our downward dog. So I'm going to come to sit on a block for this last seated twist. And I really like sitting on a block because it helps to keep that natural curve in the low back. So what often happens when people sit on the floor, that back starts to round under. It becomes really hard to sit on the sit bones. So you can see, even as I'm sitting on my sit bones, I'm leaning forward and I'm creating some extra stress in here. So by adding that block, that height, it just allows so much more ease in the spine and in the hips. All right, I'm going to turn back to face the camera here. And I apologize that you can't see my feet, but that's okay. All right, we're going to come into a seated twist. So I'm going to bend my one leg in, and now you can decide. You can leave the leg next to the other leg. You can cross the legs over. Actually, before you do that, let's take the dowel, and the dowel is going to come between the legs and as close to your body as you can manage. So I've got it right up against my chest and my nose, although it might not touch your nose, but that's okay too. So if you want to cross that leg over, you can. And as we twist, I'm going to twist towards the bent leg. You could twist the other way as well. Again, this is going to be, I'm going to think of this like my spine. And so as I rotate my rib cage around, I want to stay upright. I'm not leaning to the side or this side. and I'm not leaning back and away from the rod. So again, I don't have to go that far. You can play with keeping your nose pointing to the rod. That can be kind of fun because guess what? Your lumbar thoracic can twist one way and your cervical spine, the neck spine, can twist back the other way. So again, just feeling that rotation, let the legs be heavy and steady. Come back to the center. Legs come out, and then we're going to switch to the other side. And again, you could just leave the legs side by each. You don't have to cross them over. I'm just going to leave them side by each on this side just to show you. And as I rotate, rib cage moving around, pelvis staying stable, steady. Yeah, maybe I try and leave my nose there as my, or maybe I rotate and bring it back. But again, what we're focusing on is letting that be your surrogate spine and noticing a desire to move sideways. And again, if there is, if just maybe move smaller. Yeah, try and keep that, play with what that twist looks like. And you can go the other way if you like to, with keeping that spine nice and upright. Both legs come back out. We're going to take the block away. And we're going to come back to our downward facing dog. This time I'm going to come into it from all fours because I'm already down on the floor. Feeling the hands, tucking the toes, lifting the hips up and lifting up and back. And then just notice what you feel in your downward facing dog now. Notice your breath, connection to the earth. Notice what it feels in your spine, your legs, your hips, your shoulders. And then we're going to come out of that. I'm going to walk the feet forward, roll up, come out any way you like. And let's just come back to our side bend. So feeling the feet, center of the heel, ball of the foot. Nice and even, and side bend one way. And again, if you want to add the arm, you can. Oh. And come back. And side bending the other way. Actually, my arm feels lighter. And just notice how you feel in standing. So I hope that was interesting and fun. If you enjoyed that, check out the other videos on the hip hinge and a little bit of shoulder work with the dowel. And have fun exploring. Thanks for joining me.